Hi, welcome to the Inspire View series. My name is Cherrise Boucher, and I am a momentum strategy coach. I was inspired to do this whole series because I wanted to share stories of women who have followed their hearts and their passion to do stuff that they love to do, because I feel it's just absolutely critical to do that and stay connected with yourself. So I am in my third year, really excited, and I've interviewed over 50 women from around the world, and there is a common thread really with everybody, no matter where they're from, is that we all want to love what we do. So I hope that this series and the interviews that I've done with these awesome women inspire you to follow your dreams and do what you love to do. And that you'll have great resources of who to go to for some awesome services that they all have. Today, I am welcoming back Valerie Greene. She was actually on year one of this. I wasn't sure, so I had to check back to where she was. And we've stayed connected over the past couple of years, and I invited her back because she's still doing her awesome work, and it's always good to have a refresh. Plus, she has some pretty cool stuff coming up. So Valerie is a unique relationship mentor who helps women to inspire their man to fulfill their deepest needs and desires. A highly successful alternative to relationship therapy, she helps women and couples create emotional intimacy, not just problem solving or communication skills, which I think is pretty unique. So welcome, Valerie. I'll let you fill in the blanks with everything else as we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I love speaking with you, Cherrise.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's start a little bit about how did you get to be a relationship coach for women?
Well, thanks so much. And I'll share my story from that angle this time around, because I definitely have been passionate about relationships for my whole life, but I've definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how we learn, right? So
that's right.
Like most of us, I grew up in the 80s, and like most of us at that time, I thought that men and women were the same. And since then, I've learned that, of course, we're equal, but we're definitely not the same. I mean, obviously, we look different, but I mean, I just assume that like men and women were motivated by the same things as we are and have the same, things that vulnerabilities that we do. And as I'll share later, we're actually quite different, and we can harmonize those differences. But in my 20s, I really was kind of rebelling against feeling controlled in a lot of ways growing up. And I would choose men where I was like, okay, we're going to be equal. And, so we would start out with a lot of passion and a lot of intimacy. And then over time, though, because I didn't want to be controlled, they would just be more easygoing, and they would allow me to, make the rules and the decisions. And over time, I would wonder why he didn't want to be around me. And he seemed to be kind of arguing with me. And so I would just kind of tell him what I wanted innocently, and it would push him away, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. But all I knew is that I would keep on getting into these situations where the man in my life would seem like he wasn't that into me, or we were fighting a lot. And that's what really motivated me to study what it was that makes a relationship truly fulfilling. And I dedicated myself wholeheartedly to that. And so I did coaching training about 13 years ago. And during that time, I also dove fully into studying a myriad of emotional intimacy tools and communication tools, and really using those tools in the trenches with my relationships and with my coaching clients. And I just discovered that there's certain tools that work really well. And when I started just relating to my own emotions in more loving ways and relating to him in a different way, all of a sudden, within a matter of weeks, the man I was with started showing up and doing things that I had wanted him to do for years, but he'd been resisting. Or he actually was giving me more attention and more affection, and planning dates with me, and wanting to, asking me what made me happy. And it was like amazing. The subtle shifts I was making, I started applying those to my clients, and they would have the same shifts and breakthroughs in the relationships. And I was like, wow, this stuff really works. So I continued to train with some of the world's top intimacy experts and researchers like Susan Johnson and John Gottman. And I developed a system using the tools that had worked for me and my clients that I kept teaching to the same system to my clients over and over again. And so I created a system that I call the Manifest Lasting Love system.
Ah.
And because that's what you do, you manifest lasting love.
Right.
And that's what I teach to women through a variety of, through one-on-one coaching and through group programs. And I just developed a home study course in the same tools. So I'm just super excited to get these tools into the hands of women who want deeper love and deeper intimacy and deeper passion in their relationships.
Right. That's fantastic. So a couple things came to mind. Did the person that you were in a relationship, was he aware that you were putting these little tools into play and that's what was changing? Was he like, okay, you just became a whole different person. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, he was of course aware that I was using these tools. And at the same time, it's funny. I mean, he tells me all the time that he's like, and this is the cool thing about it, is like, it doesn't matter if he knows that you're using tools. I mean, my partner now is like, I know what you teach because you tell me, and I know that you're using this, communication tool on me, but it's still working and I'm still feeling motivated to give you what you want. So it's like, it doesn't matter, because when men feel respected and honored and empowered by the way we're talking to them, because it's not the tool that's working. It's us really being in touch with our authentic desires and our authentic feelings, and that actually just brings out the beauty of who we really are. And so, yes, we're using the tool, but it's sort of like, you use any other tool, like you use, I don't know, a Cuisinart to make a meal, but it's not the Cuisinart that was, I mean, yes, you could have done the same thing just by chopping it yourself, but that saves time. But it's not the Cuisinart that made this amazing food, right? It's the pure ingredients in the food from the sunlight and the nutrients and your love that you put into it and your work, that's making this wonderful meal. So the tools are just a way of bringing out our beauty and our authentic essence.
And you had mentioned that you used to kind of behave and have a certain perspective about men and women and their roles and our differences, really, but you wanted to make them more equal, but it wasn't really working that way. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I saying that clearly? I don't know if my mouth and my brain are working together right now. But so have you discovered and just come to the realization that, yes, I mean, men are different and respond to certain things, and women are different and respond to certain things, and there's a way to bring those pieces together? Is that like how you've come to this system that you've created?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, my voice, it's the winter. Yeah, I want to say first off that I don't have blanket statements about the way men are and the way women are, because we're all unique individuals, right? So obviously there's a large variation, but I've just found, I actually talk about it more in terms of masculine energy and feminine energy. Okay. Most women are happiest when they embody their feminine energy, and most men are happiest when they embody their masculine energy. One of my closest friends, though, is, gender ambiguous and would not agree with that. So it's just a question of what is unique for each person. So what I'd like each woman or man listening to this to do is to just hear what I say in terms of asking yourself, what would make me truly happy? And try out the tools that I teach on your partner, and see what the effect is. Does it make your partner come closer to you and invite deeper intimacy or not? Rather than believing like men are this way or women are that way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, in the aspect of feminine energy, why is it important to cultivate that and kind of let go of other thoughts that sometimes we have, like, oh, I need to be tough about this? And, obviously
Yeah.
feminine energy is much softer and compassionate, dare I say. I don't know, I like to take care of things, and I
Yeah,
see that
exactly.
even in little girls.
Yeah.
Like my son had a girlfriend who would text him to make sure that he was up in the morning because he has a really
Oh,
hard time doing that. I'm like, she's 13. See, so we've got this nurturing thing that's
yeah.
just built into us. I think that we want to take care of people.
Exactly. And that's a wonderful way of putting it, because that's a good thing to be nurturing. And I'm not saying that it's bad for women to have masculine energy. So let me.
Well, we have to get shit done sometimes,
Exactly.
and that is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I use my masculine energy to get myself to meet with you on time today. You know what I mean? So it's not like we don't. So I want to really make a distinction then.
Mm-hmm.
But that what I'm offering through the things that I teach is a greater sense of freedom and choice over balancing our masculine and feminine energy, really feeling what it is to be in each one. Because then it's like we have access to all parts of us, and we can use the parts of us that are really appropriate for what we want to create in the moment. So I'll like that's that, because we need both masculine and feminine energy in order to be able to be happy in our lives.
Right.
What I find though is just in our culture, masculine energy is really rewarded and feminine energy is just not as in our culture rewarded. And so women have lost touch with their feminine energy, and then there's two masculine energy people in the house fighting for control.
Right.
And that's what causes a lot of problems, and certainly what caused me problems in the past. So first I'd like to explain what I mean by masculine and feminine energy, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there that feminine energy is not being submissive or being a wallflower, and it's not just being beautiful and just attracting things. So both of us, like I said, have masculine and feminine energy, and we need both. Like when your son's girlfriend was texting him to see if he's up, we don't know which one that was in, because maybe they had an agreement that she would do that. I mean, and then
Right.
it's collaborative, which is feminine, so we don't know. Or she could be telling him what to do, and that could be without him wanting it, which is her taking on the leadership, which is her being masculine. So so the same action can be done from a different energy and have different results,
Right.
So I'll kind of go into what masculine, feminine energy is. And just kind of listen to these and try on, what it feels like to kind of embody these energies. So masculine energy is things like strategizing and logistics, making decisions, doing things, analyzing, solving problems, providing, making goals and accomplishing them. And so, like I said, we have to do that. And we need to do that to be successful in our life. So women need our masculine energy when we're working, and when we're parenting.
Yeah.
It's a very managerial kind of energy, and that's good.
Right.
And so now listen to the feminine qualities. And these are just things that I find a lot of women have lost touch with. And when we are able to tap into these things, when we choose to, it can create fantastic results in a relationship with a man. So these are things like feeling our feelings and being willing to communicate our feelings in a way that is softer, like you said, which can be very powerful in terms of influencing a man, which I'll talk about later. Receiving and actually allowing ourselves to receive everything that is being provided in the moment instead of pushing it away or, thinking you have to be doing stuff instead. Tuning into our intuition, allowing ourselves to just be, and collaborating instead of, leading, collaborating, which is a way of, making sure that everyone is in agreement with things, the situation getting what we both want. So I'll talk about that later. Instead of leading and having a leader and a follower, it's collaborating. And the spiritual practice of surrender. So I can talk more about what that means, because a woman, when she's in her feminine, is not surrendering to a man per se.
Right.
But you're surrendering.
Yeah, because I can, you know, a lot of people be like, bullshit, I'm not surrendering to anybody, you know?
Yeah. And that's not, you know, what it's about per se, but it's learning how to tap into our intuition and surrendering to what's in the highest good, you know, for us, and regardless of what your man is doing.
Right.
And so, you know, I can talk for a long time about what that means, but I'd like you to kind of imagine that you're dancing across the ballroom with your partner, and you're the follower and he's the leader, because that's, you know, what most women choose. So it's not just that the follower is following, because it's really a collaboration, right? Because a good leader is going to lead in a way where he's actually really tuning into how the follower is expressing herself, and he'll lead according to what makes her feel good. So, because, you know, he's kind of sensing, he's getting a feel for what she can do well, what she isn't as good at, and what she enjoys, what she doesn't enjoy. And then he'll want to lead in a way that makes her feel good. And that's what a good leader does. And, you know, so it's the way she's expressing herself that tells him, you know, where to take the dance next. And so as a feminine woman, it's up to us to express ourselves in a way that's providing deeper intimacy, which is into me see.
Right.
You know, in a way that is allowing him to see the effect of what his actions are taking, so that if he's connected to us and he's not feeling like we're making him wrong or that we're telling him what to do, that he'll naturally want to do things that make us feel good. And that's the dynamic that I've seen happen over and over and over again. And so it's just up to us, because masculine and feminine energy are sort of like two poles in a battery. So if we want passion that's created by one partner being in their masculine and the other partner being in their feminine. And like I said, I mean, some women and men want to be in the opposite dynamic, where the woman's more masculine and the man's more feminine, and that's fine. I've seen that work. I've actually coached couples that were like that, and it works. And even same-sex couples usually have one partner who's more masculine, one partner who's more feminine. And that's what creates the passion. So I'm not just saying that women need to be feminine and men need to be masculine, but I want our listeners or watchers to really ask yourselves, which do you want to be in your relationship? Because a masculine man is going to want a feminine energy partner to be sensual, to be intuitive, to be the emotional feeling person in his life.
Right.
And that means that as women, it's totally fine for us to be in our masculine energy at work, but we need to learn how to change hats at home to be the feminine energy partner in the relationship. And that is how to inspire him to step up and actually take more leadership and take more actions and do more of the chores and do more of the things that need to get done, not from a place of kind of being the manager. And that's what I see as like a lot of women that make the mistake of kind of being the manager at home.
Yeah.
And you know, I certainly see that. But what happens to the man when a woman is being the manager is that he'll actually feel disrespected and mothered. And then he won't do what you want him to do. And it's not because he doesn't want to make you happy, because he does. It's just that he's rebelling against feeling controlled himself. And then he'll actually like subtly feel pushed away and not feel affectionate and not want to do things for you. And then the romance and the passion is killed.
Right.
And there's just subtle shifts in the way that we're showing up that can change that. And so those are the things that I teach women that really make a difference in your intimacy.
Yeah. And that's hard because you know, when you talk, and this happened the first time we interviewed too, I'm thinking of all these scenarios in my head personally. And, you know, especially, okay, so, you know, there are a lot of single moms out there who go to work full time and, you know, they're always sort of in that masculine because they're at work, they're getting shit done there. They come home, they have to manage the house and the kids and make sure they get homework done and keep everything on schedule. So they're never leaving that really masculine part. And then if, you know, they get into a relationship with somebody, how do you like retrain yourself
Right.
to turn that off when you get home, or to switch roles? Like, it seems really weird and hard to do.
You know, it is hard to make the shift, but I find, you know, it's like any habit. You create a habit and then you're naturally wanting to switch into your feminine energy. The biggest, and because it feels so replenishing and so good, I think the biggest, you know, thing that women say against that is, I don't have the time for that. And the practices that I teach don't have to take that much time. It really only has to take a couple of minutes to shift. And it's really a way of being. So the practices that I teach, I have several guided meditations or practices, but it could literally be as simple as taking an extra minute when you're, let's say, brushing your hair, and feeling the pleasure of the hairbrush touching your scalp and the smoothness of your hair as you allow it to be brushed, as opposed to thinking about the next thing you have to do. It's like, can I take one extra minute and just feel the pleasure of applying moisturizer to my skin when I do it? I'm doing it anyway.
Right.
But can I feel the pleasure of like my hands touching my skin, you know, and literally just take some deep breaths and notice what I'm feeling in my body and notice whatever it is that I'm receiving in this moment, you know, and it only has to take a minute. And then it's not like, yes, I mean, when women, it's true. And this is something that a lot of women are experiencing, where we're masculine a lot. But then it's like, what I ask is that when that woman who's a single mom is going out on a date with a guy, to really practice the qualities of being receptive and responsive. Those are the two qualities that I encourage the most when a woman is dating a guy, or if you're married. Receptive is just to notice whatever he is giving you and fully receive it and allow your body to take it in. You know, just like you are when you're brushing your hair, you're taking in the sensations. It's like, if he opens the door for you, what are your beliefs about receiving? And does that mean that he's going to want something back? And, you know, is that like, or do you just, you know, like actually allow yourself to receive and say, thank you. Like, that feels really good.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what puts you in your feminine, is to be receptive and responsive and let him know what feels good. And to tune into whatever feels good, because there's always something that feels bad about the moment and something that feels good about it. There's always both, right?
Right.
So like, this is, you know, what we do when we're saying affirmations or doing any kind of spiritual practices. We're just noticing what feels good. So if we just say that out loud, I know it sounds silly, but, you know, if you're like, wow, you know, the atmosphere in this restaurant, or like, you know, the apartment, you know, because it's clean right now, or you notice something that feels good about it. Like, I just love the way that, you know, it's the perfect temperature here right now, and that's allowing me to relax. And just notice what feels good. If you say that to a man, the thing with men is that testosterone just affects men's brains differently, and estrogen affects our brains differently. So there's something about testosterone, and you notice that in both, you know, in across the board in all species, is that male, you know, primates or any animal is more territorial.
Right.
And so how that affects men is that they actually take ownership for everything in the environment. And this is key, because you think he doesn't want to do anything in the home, but there's reasons for that actually make sense. And there's simple shifts we can make to inspire him to take ownership and do more. I mean, my partner is actually more into cleanliness than I am. And like, he'll really take ownership and make sure that things are, you know, in order and beautiful, you know, because we both share that value. But so just saying like anything that feels good about the moment, he's going to take ownership of the whole experience, and he's going to take that as a compliment that you feel good in his presence, and that's going to make him want to do more for you. If you're just in what feels good. So even if a woman is totally busy, you're going to be talking to the man that you're with on a date anyway. So sharing your positive feelings, anything about your positive feelings, inspires him to take ownership for creating that whole experience. And then he's going to feel really good about being with you. So that's, you know, a quick tip for women that think they're too busy to be in their feminine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense, because we brush our hair, we put on makeup, we put on moisturizer, we eat, you know, if we're on a date or whatever, we're eating, like, what's enjoyable about that moment, and to share it. So you're right. So that they recognize that, and like, oh, she likes that, we're going to do this some more, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that really just pumps them up to be able to do more for you and to want to do more for you. Because being in that, you know, receptive and emotional energy is so attractive to men, because if you think about it, men don't really have a chance to feel their feelings in almost any other area of their life besides when they're with a woman. Men don't sit around with their guy friends and talk about feelings like women do. So it's like we take for granted, you know.
Well, they probably talk about stuff, but it's a lot more like, you know, masculine, and not like the soft, real feelings, but more of, like you said, the territorial kind of thing aspect of it, because they're with other guys, so they want to be like, I got this going on, you know.
Yeah, and obviously, like, I don't want to stereotype either. I mean, men do talk about their feelings, but it's in a different way. They talk more about what they want, you know, to accomplish, or like, you know, or they do talk about what they want or what they don't want, but it's usually more problem solving with each other. Like, they don't just bring up their feelings unless they want to solve the problem, you know, with each other. They don't just sit around talking about their feelings like most women do. And so, but the point is that men have feelings. They want to feel their feelings. And that's why men love being around women so much, because when a masculine man is around a feminine woman who's feeling her feelings and expressing them in an inspiring way, and this is either her positive feelings or her more challenging feelings, which I'll get to, you know, later, because this is the thing I'm most passionate about teaching, is for a woman how to share what she doesn't like and what she doesn't want and what doesn't feel good in a way that's inspiring, because most of the time we haven't learned how to do that in a way that doesn't push them away. So that's what I'm most passionate about teaching about. And what, you know, most of us just feel really, and that just makes us even madder, because if we share, you know, what it is that we're feeling that's challenging, we don't know how to do that in a way that doesn't either push them away or make him give us advice, or, you know, there's just a way to share your challenging feelings too in a way that inspires him. So that's what I want to talk about later. But first, I just want to talk about feelings in general, because this is, I think, the key skill that women need to develop in order to really mesmerize and inspire and attract a man, whether you're just dating him or whether he's your husband. Is to share your feelings in a way that invites deeper intimacy. You know, that doesn't make him wrong, because what that does for him is it actually gives him permission to feel his feelings, which he doesn't normally have. And that actually causes him to develop stronger feelings for you, and it attracts him to you like bees to honey, because he's like, oh my God, I'm actually feeling my heart now, and I don't have the chance to do that any other time in my life. And it's just mesmerizing for a man when a woman's really in touch with her feelings, obviously her positive feelings, but also her challenging feelings.
And it's like, how can you approach that? Like, because if we're in a pissy mood and we're having challenging feelings, you know, to express that without putting the other person in a defensive mode, which then like just clashes and erupts into something that just makes the situation worse. It's hard to do that when you're in that space, to think consciously. I guess you have to breathe first and think. Well,
actually, that is extremely important, and that's part of being in our feminine, is breathing and feeling our body. And, you know, because feelings are in our body, and most of the time what we do when we try to share our feelings is we share the thoughts in our head, not the feelings in our body. And so that's the biggest mistake I think that women make when they share their feelings, is they share the thoughts in our head.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with emotions is that emotions live in your body. There's really no other place that emotions live. The thoughts in your head are just half of the story.
Right.
I like to teach the metaphor of the 3 blind men and the elephant. Have you heard of that one?
I don't know if I have heard that one.
Great. It's a fun one. And
Okay.
it's a great way to address the elephant in the room too. So basically the story is that 3 blind men, they approach an elephant and they want to know what it looks like. So they're like, great, let's work together. We'll figure out what this thing looks like. So one of them feels the trunk and he's like, oh, an elephant is like a hose. And then the second one feels its leg and it's like a tree trunk. And he's like, what are you talking about? You're wrong. The elephant is like a tree trunk, not a hose. And then the third one is like, you're both wrong, because he's feeling the tail. And he's like, the elephant is like a broom. How could you think it's like a tree trunk or a hose? And so, who's right? So they just start arguing about what this elephant looks like, right? But it's like, well, they're all right from their point of view.
Right.
So the thing to do with our thoughts is to recognize that they're only half of the truth. They're not the truth. They're only half of the truth. That the man has his perspective and it's the other end of the elephant. And you could argue over who's right, or you can express your feelings, and your feelings live in your body. And it's sort of just like the partner dance that, the leader wants to feel what's going on in the follower's body in order to make the next move, to move in a way that makes her feel good. So let's say, so this is kind of the mistake that women make. They either don't express their feelings or they express their thoughts instead of their feelings. And what happens is, if we express our thoughts, it's usually something that is saying that we're right. Right. Which implies that he's wrong.
Right.
And then what happens when he feels attacked is that he'll get defensive, or the best defense is a good offense. So if he feels attacked a lot, then he'll start criticizing us, or just being passive problem. But actually it's the way that we've been expressing our thoughts and not our feelings that is creating that dynamic. Like, as women, we actually have a ton of power. So this is the key skill that I teach. And I'll actually, if this is coming out on Tuesday, I'll be teaching a webinar on Wednesday, February 8th, that is all about this. And I expand on this, how women can express their feelings in a way that inspires the man. But I'll go into it now a little bit too.
Yeah.
So, it's like, let's say, for example, that I'm living with my partner and, we have, this is just a stereotypical example, but like, if we have, some chores that he's supposed to do and I'm supposed to do, right? And I do mine, he doesn't do his. Normally what we would do, and we would even maybe just point out the innocent thought that like, hey, you didn't do your chores, because like, that's just true, right? What's wrong with saying that? But you notice how I'm just saying my thoughts and not my feelings.
Right.
And so what he'll hear is that there's something wrong that we're complaining about.
Right.
And then he'll hear that we're making him wrong, and he'll subtly rebel against what we want him to do. Right. So that's just kind of what happens. That's just, men are just primed to hear that he's either succeeding or failing. So if we point out the ways he's succeeding, then he'll keep wanting to do more. And if we point out the ways that he's failing, unfortunately, failure is just really hard for a man to feel. And then he'll want to focus his energy on other things that he'll feel successful at, like his job or his hobbies. It's because it's just they're primed to want to feel successful. Right. So it's like, we want to just get that success fail paradigm out of the picture. We don't want to trigger that in a man.
Right.
So what we want to do is express our feelings, and to just say something like, even just using the word feeling and what we desire more of, like how we want to feel.
Yeah.
So if I'm noticing the bathroom hasn't been clean and I'm realizing, well, I'm right from my point of view, he's right from his point of view, because maybe he's just focusing on something else. I don't want to nag him. Right. But I can just, say to him, like, I just felt really gross when I went to the bathroom. And, but in like a playful way, and like saying like, I want to feel relaxed and happy. And I feel relaxed and happy when my environment is really beautiful. And, you know, just kind of saying that, like, there's nothing to fight against, because we're just telling him what feels bad and what feels good.
Right.
And, you know, usually he doesn't hear that as nagging, but he might. So I wouldn't keep on saying that. What I would say next, without nagging him, is just approach him and, first of all, acknowledge what he's feeling from his point of view. So, like, there's a good reason why he didn't. And it's usually because, and this is the third mistake that I see women making, the second being telling him what to do. The third being that we assume that men and women are the same. And men and women's brains are actually wired really differently. Men are wired to be single focused. Mm-hmm. So it's just that he's doing something that he feels is more important. And even if he's like zoning out in front of the TV, men need they need to accomplish a goal and then get space to recharge, and then accomplish a goal and get space to recharge. So that space is actually really important. So it's like acknowledging that whatever he's doing is important to him is like really necessary, because then he hears he's succeeding. So it's like, wow, you know, thank you for focusing on whatever it is you're doing. Like, thank you for, you're so good at what you're doing. Like, thank you for whatever it is, this thing that you accomplished. Like, if he's working on the computer instead, I'll be like, I'm so impressed with how you're able to focus, you know? And like, just like noticing him, this really works.
Because I'm getting snarky thoughts in my mind right now. I'm going, boy, great focus on watching that TV show for 5 hours. You know, like that would be, I really appreciate your focus and wasting time sitting on the couch.
Like, why I'm like doing all the work and like you get to zone out and like what's wrong with you, right? And those are definitely the thoughts in our head. And
yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, you're right from your point of view.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I teach women how to do, is to give themselves like validation for their point of view, because it's not like you're wrong, you know what I mean? Of course, like from your point of view, it looks like he's like being a couch potato and a bum, you know what I mean? But like, so trying to get into his point of view is part of what I teach, and sort of acknowledging him for what it is that he is doing, and you know, trying to get why that works for him and why that works for his life. Which is really why I teach the differences between men and women, because it always does make sense when you look at it from his point of view. And what I've seen is that men will tend to zone out in front of the couch more often when they feel made wrong by their partners. And then once he stops feeling made wrong by you, he'll actually step up and do more. That what he's doing is actually a reaction to what you've been doing.
Right.
So, you know, my partner doesn't zone out in front of the TV. Like, he actually does things that serve both of us. But in the past, he would zone out a lot more, you know, because he would feel like I was making him wrong and he would want to get away from that.
Right.
So, but anyway, sharing our feelings is, the mindset shift that I want to teach in this case is from control to collaboration. Because that's recognizing that what I want is not necessarily for him to clean the bathroom. Like, that's my strategy to get what I want. But what you are looking for is always an experience. I want to experience, you know, beauty in the home. I want to experience feeling relaxed, you know, knowing that like I'm not going to be touching something dirty. You know, like that makes me feel relaxed, right? So we're looking for an experience, for feeling, and that's the feminine way to be in touch with what we want. And what it is that he's looking for through zoning out in front of the TV is probably the same thing. Like, we're actually looking for the same thing. He wants to feel relaxed, you know, because he's de-stressing. So collaboration is realizing that he can feel whatever it is that he wants to feel, and I can feel whatever I want to feel, and we can actually create a way to have both. Right. You know, so if I go up next to him while he's watching TV and say in a really soft way, because it comes from trust that if I collaborate, we can both get what we want, for me to be like, you know, I'm really looking to feel relaxed and happy, and you're looking to feel relaxed and happy. How can we have both? You know, and he'll sort of be like, what do you mean? And I'll be like, well, I feel relaxed and happy when my house is beautiful and clean, you know, and I understand that right now you're wanting to feel relaxed and happy because you're stressed out and you're trying to de-stress. you know? So how can we have both? You know, because I just feel kind of anxious and I want to feel better, you know? So you're kind of like putting it in his court. Like, what does he suggest that
What if he says, sit on the couch and veg out with me, and then you can feel relaxed and comfortable too?
You know, and it's like, of course, like he might be snarky, and it's like for us to be like, you know what, that doesn't work for me. I know it works for you. But can we have a conversation about this? Because I want to create a solution that works for both of us, you know, and that it might not be a good time now, but when is a good time? You know, because I know if we talk about this, we can work out a solution that works for both of us.
Yeah.
So it's having this attitude of collaboration and taking a stand that you can both have what you want. And when you really stand for collaboration, I call this having a partnership mindset. He'll rise up to the plate once he senses that you're not trying to make him wrong anymore. He'll actually come up with solutions that you didn't think he was capable of, because this is what men do. They're problem solvers. He'll come up with a way for the bathroom to get clean that works for him, but you have to let him come up with it.
Right. It has to be his idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just sharing your feelings and what you want and taking a stand for that. You know, there is a solution that works for both of you. And then when he really feels that you're committed to that, he'll step up to the plate and want to create it. So that's kind of how to stay in the masculine feminine. So it's like, that's what I teach. And I actually have a 5-step process that I teach for how to share your feelings in a way that inspires a man. And I call it the manifest lasting love conversation. And this is what I teach in depth, and actually what I'll be teaching in depth in the webinar that I'll be doing February 8th is how to have this manifest lasting love conversation. And if you can't make the webinar, I also have it in a free 20-page e-guide.
Oh, nice.
Where I share all about this. And so I'm happy to tell you how to get this information, because I've found that when I've worked with women where their husbands were seeming not to care about their needs, and they don't do anything unless you tell him to, and, you know, then he doesn't seem to want to be around you anymore, and he spends more time watching TV than, you know, wanting to spend time with you. When I've shared these secrets, and especially this manifest love conversation, and a woman really embodies her feminine and learns how to inspire him with her feelings, then he won't want to zone out in front of the TV for 5 hours. You know, like, he'll still watch TV, but he'll make sure that he's doing the things that really make you happy.
Right.
Because now he actually feels your happiness, and he'll want to keep that going. You know, because that's what a man really wants, is to be successful in his relationship.
Right.
He just doesn't know how, because he thinks he's tried it, it doesn't work. So then he'll put his attention elsewhere.
Right. That makes total sense. When you were talking about that, it reminds me of like the perfect example in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I love that movie. I watch it like, I don't even know how many times I've seen it, right? But where the women just talked around a situation, a thing that they had already decided they wanted to have happen, and then her husband comes up with that exact solution that he thought of all by himself, and he's like, there, problem solved. And they were like, great idea, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, he just wants to think it's his idea, and it's fine if it was really your idea. Like, it's still getting done, who cares?
Right. Seems manipulative.
You know, okay, so I want to address that, because it seems manipulative, but so here's how collaboration is different than manipulation.
Okay. Because
manipulation is being attached to him doing something specific, you know, like cleaning the bathroom. And you're sort of like using these tools to get him to do something. So I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, yes, that's how it occurs in that instance. But collaboration is realizing that what I'm looking for is to feel relaxed and happy. And I'm attached to that the strategy of him cleaning the bathroom is one strategy of me feeling relaxed and happy. You know, what I want is for the bathroom to be clean, but it doesn't have to be him doing it. So I'm not attached to him doing a specific thing. That's the attitude of collaboration. But I'm attached to me actually feeling relaxed and happy. So, like, if I share that with him, and I ask him, okay, like, so what would it take for you to do it? And I'm really listening for what's authentic for him. Maybe it's not authentic for him to clean the bathroom, but maybe there's something else that he could provide that would allow the bathroom to get clean besides him doing it. You know, like maybe, and there's a million scenarios that we can come up with here, you know,
Right.
maybe there's a way that he would be able to cut something else out of his budget to pay for a cleaning person.
Right.
You know, maybe there's something else he could do for me that would take away some other work that I'm doing. Like maybe there's a chore that, that, you know, he wants to do that I'm doing. Like maybe he wants to take over some of the cooking, you know, maybe he likes that more. And then I would clean the bathroom. So it's like, I'm not trying to get him to do something. I'm really realizing that if I have my attention on how I want to feel and what I want to experience, and he has his attention on how he wants to feel and what he wants to experience, there's a win-win solution we can come up with that gets both, you know?
Right.
So that's how it's different than like manipulating him to do something, if that makes sense.
With certain favors that could be, if you clean the bathroom, we get to have this really passionate experience later.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's like that does sound kind of manipulative, and that's not transactional, and that's definitely not
right
what works.
Yeah,
it might work
because you want it long term.
Exactly.
You want to kind of instill that if I do these things and we work collaboratively together, then we'll both feel this way 90% of the time or something. It's a long-term goal rather than a quick get this done kind of thing.
Exactly. And the more you practice these skills of collaboration, and I teach this in my courses and programs, the more it's like you'll just, and this is definitely what happened with me and my partner, we now assume that if we get into a disagreement that we'll come up with a solution that works for both of us because we use these tools. And now we do it in like 5 minutes. It's like, here's what I want, here's what you want, here's a new solution that we come up with how to make it work. You know, and I mean, chores are one example where, you know, we just know like how to keep the place clean in a way that we both like it. But that's of course an easy example. I mean, I've had this work with clients and, you know, or even with us in terms of our sexuality. Sometimes we have different libidos. And we've come up with solutions where both of us feel satisfied, even if one of us isn't in the mood, because we know what works for me, we know what works for him. And it's like, we come up with collaborative ways of like inspiring each other and like, you know, how does he want me to seduce him? And, you know, how do I want him to seduce me? And, you know, how do we collaborate if one of us isn't in the mood? And, you know, it's like, that's things that most couples aren't able to really talk about because one person's feelings get hurt. But, you know, that's one example, or another example is parenting that I've seen, you know, where one partner wants more discipline and the other partner wants less, and they fight about it. And of course, their kids see them fighting. So the process that I teach around how to have a win-win solution works for things like that, where they realize like, oh, okay, like I'm seeing the positive intention behind what the other person, their parenting style. And then, you know, once they see that, they notice, you know, what works and what doesn't work. And then they're both able to support each other in like, you know, if the partner that wants more discipline can apply more discipline, but, you know, in a loving way now that they feel supported. And it's okay that the other partner doesn't. And kids are actually very versatile and they learn, you know, different things from the parent. Like you don't have to do things the same, but now you're working together. So these win-win solutions actually really do work in more complicated instances, not just with chores.
That makes sense. It sounds, I mean, it's habit building, really. You know, it's practice, of course, because if you're used to living, if you're a woman used to living in like the masculine energy for most of your day, it's definitely going to take an awareness practice kind of thing to shift that over. But I think once it's done and once you're aware, it's the whole I talk about awareness like all the time. So once you're aware of what's coming out of your mouth versus, you know, like you're speaking your head and not your feelings and your emotions, like you said, then you can catch it and kind of backtrack and put it in a different way.
Exactly. And if we really learn how to speak our feelings in a way that's collaborative and not manipulative, you know, so there's a like, I'll give you an example, like if I'm sharing my feelings in a way that's collaborative or manipulative, you know, so let's say like, let's say he's being mean to me, and I say something and he kind of blows me off and he's like, "Ugh, I don't want to talk about this," and so using the tools that I teach women for how to really process and alchemize our emotions, I would approach him later and share how that impacted me. So I can share the same feelings, I can say the same words, but one is with an attitude of self-love and collaboration, and the other one is with trying to manipulate him. So if I share my emotions with self-love and collaboration, I would approach him and I might say something like, honey, like later when I was sharing my feelings and you walked out, I just really miss the closeness that we've shared in the past. And it gives me so much pleasure to be able to have you listen to me. And then I feel deeply connected to you and I feel a sense of intimacy. And that's really what makes me happy. And, so how can we have more of that? Like, what would work for you? So that's a way that would kind of open up a loving dialogue.
Right.
But then I could say the same words where I'm trying to manipulate him to listen to me in that moment or whatever, and that's, you can tell that I'm attached to getting a particular outcome. So I could approach him and say the same words. I could say, earlier when, I was speaking and you were, you walked out of the room, I really felt, hurt, and because it's so important to me that you listen to me, and then I feel really connected to you, and that's just what we have to do, and so I'm saying the same thing, but you can sense that, it's all about my tone of voice, of course, too, but your tone of voice is really determined by your attitude, and your beliefs. Right. So it's like, if you believe that you can create a solution that works for both of you, even if it's not in this moment, you're just inviting him to dance with you, in that way where he's feeling what makes you feel good and wants to give it to you. That's collaboration. But if you're attached to him doing a certain thing in a certain time frame, then it'll be manipulative. Right. And then if you share your feelings, it's going to push him away.
Makes total sense. Total sense. And and I think it's a good idea, like in those situations, to actually take that time to just chill so that you can collect yourself and kind of take a look at the perspective of both sides before you approach the conversation, because otherwise you would be coming at it with that other attitude.
Yes, exactly. And that's just the tools that I teach, is exactly how to do that, how to get more perspective. And with practice, it only has to take a minute, to feel whatever you're feeling and what you're really wanting, and then to imagine what he's really wanting, and then approach it from that, partnership mindset where, you can both get your needs met. And that's what I teach in my, coaching programs and in my courses. I even have a flow chart for how to have that kind of conversation. Wow, nice. It's very simple. And I provide like demos for how to, use it and how it sounds. And it's really just coming from this mindset that, he has things that he wants and you have things that you want, but what's the essence of what you want and what's the essence that he wants? Because you could always have both when you just get down to the essence. Right. And then you can co-create strategies together. Like if he comes up with an idea and that's not what you want, you can be like, well, okay, that's one idea, but that wouldn't work for me in this way. So what's another idea that has, the same thing, but it would work for both of us, Right. So you're kind of like helping him to see what's working, what doesn't work. And I've seen it again and again. There's basically 3 situations in which this doesn't work, and all other ones I've really seen it work. So like if one partner has an active addiction, or if one partner really wants kids and the other one is totally opposed to kids, there's no real win-win solution for that. No. Or if one partner wants to be monogamous and the other one really doesn't want to be monogamous, that is a little bit black and white. Yes, there's a lot of shades of gray if you don't, but not if you do. Right. But unless it's any one of those 3 instances, I find every other problem is easy to work out in a way where both people can feel good. Parenting, money, cleanliness, in-laws. there's like both people can really work it out so that they feel good about it, rather than feeling like you're just butting heads.
Yeah. That's promising. I'm sure that a lot of people struggle with, I mean, I don't know who doesn't struggle with these things, pretty much on a day-to-day basis, but to know that it's really pretty subtle shifts that can change it and to a much more positive and collaborative relationship.
Totally, yeah. And the tools are actually pretty simple. I mean, they're not easy. Like meditation is very simple, but not easy.
Right.
But it's like learning any new habit. The skills that I teach are sort of broken down step by step, like the 5-step manifest lasting love conversation. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. So I invite women to just try on these tools, and, and what they do is they're not tools, like I said, that are like manipulative. They're tools that really get you in touch with what is it that I'm feeling and what is it that I really desire, you know, and then what is it that he needs in order to be inspired.
And feel successful.
And feel successful and feel respected. I mean, those are, I think, the 2 most important needs that men have, is to feel successful and to feel respected.
And so luckily it's perfect timing, because this interview is going to be live on February 7th. And you've got your webinar on the 8th.
The webinar that I'm doing is on February 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so the link for that is coachvaleriegreene.com/love. And it's basically called Passionate Partnership: How to Attract, Reignite, and Sustain Passionate Partnership. And I will be going over, how to tell if your relationship is disconnected, and how to really tap into your feminine essence in a way that mesmerizes and inspires him, and how to share your feelings in a way that draws him closer instead of pushes him away. So I'll really be going over in detail this 5-step manifest lasting love conversation, so that you can take it and use it and notice how it inspires the men in your life to step up and make you feel loved and cherished and adored. And then I'll also be sharing the key mindset shift that causes men to step up and commit to a woman's happiness, whatever that is for her. And then I'll be having an interactive Q&A too, so that people can, really ask me questions and get how this applies to you and your life, so that you can leave feeling sure about how to apply the 5 steps. And then, of course, I'll be sharing more about my program, which is a very affordable home study course that teaches all these things that I've alluded to, such as like how to really alchemize your emotions, and like how to identify your deepest needs, how to heal wounds from the past, so that, shift limiting beliefs, so that you can really come from this partnership mindset. And then all about simple things to do to give men what they need to be inspired, and how to have those complicated conversations to have win-win solutions. And like I said, I have a whole flow chart that I share with demos about it. So that's what the, sort of a little preview for the home study course.
Well, I highly encourage everybody to hop on that webinar next. Well, it'll be tomorrow when you're watching this, maybe. So, and to keep, sign up. You've got a newsletter, and you reach out to people too. So any other opportunities that you have coming up in the future, I encourage people to get on your list, so that they're kept in the know.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here again and sharing this time with me and your uniqueness. I love the way this coaching, it is coaching, but not, it's relationship coaching, but not in like a stuffy, like office-y kind of way. It feels much more natural and softer and nurturing, I guess. It feels good, like
awesome.
the way that you teach it. So
thank you. Yeah, well, this is, the feminine.
That's right. That's right. Practice what you preach, right? All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'm sure we will do this again in the future. And again, everybody can find quick links and this video and everything on my website at CherriseBoucher.com/The Inspire View Series 2017, and also on my YouTube channel, same name, Cherrise Boucher. There just won't be quick links there. So everything will be available and easy to get in contact with Valerie and to sign up for her webinar.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you.